Welcome to the Medical News Podcast. I'm Sean Mott, your host. I hope everyone's safe out there. I hope everyone's having a nice Thursday today. On today's episode, I have Mike Ziemer, the founder of So What Music Fest and the owner of Third String Productions. Today, we're talking about how to be productive and positive in this whole climate of the coronavirus and how this has affected the music industry as a whole, and how we think it might turn some of these negatives and uncertainties into positives. I know a lot of you said you liked the episode with Dan DeFonts where we talked music industry and music and stuff like that. So I want to bring more episodes in that same vein. So I hope you guys enjoy this one too. A couple of news items before we get into that conversation. Sam Raimi has confirmed that he will be directing Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Very cool. Obviously, he did the original Spider-Man trilogy, and Spider-Man 1 and 2 are some of the most perfect blueprints for superhero movies, in my opinion. So I'm very excited to see what he does with this crazy-ass movie when that comes out. And the first images of Dune have been released, starring Timothée Chalamet, Zendaya, Jason Momoa, Oscar Isaac, Josh Brolin. Crazy sci-fi space adventure. The books pretty much went on to inspire Star Wars to happen. Other than that, I don't really know much about it. But from these images, I cannot wait to see this movie and see what it's about and see where it takes us with the sci-fi movie space genre. That's all we have for the news. Let's get into this convo with Mike Ziemer. Hey, Mike, how you doing, man?
I am good, trying to survive.
Same here. How has the COVID-19 pandemic affected you?
I mean, I'm a concert promoter full time, so I don't really have anything to do most of the time. I mean, I like also manage artists and do marketing stuff, but the majority of my marketing clients were restaurants and bars, which are not open anymore. And so I spent a few days having like long drawn out depression naps and trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. And then kind of just started posting that I would do like podcasts and like phone calls and just like kind of anything. Yeah. And so the last 3 days I've had a full calendar from like 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock of people calling me every 30 minutes, asking me questions about like marketing their music and things like that. So it's kind of like given me excitement and like some productivity in a time where I otherwise felt useless.
Yeah, that's good. The being home part was pretty normal for me because obviously I work from home, doing a bunch of different stuff. But the having a lot less work than I did, a month ago is very strange. So I had kind of the same thing. That day when everything changed, the music industry pretty much fell in a day, as you know. And that day I was just like, that night when everything started getting canceled or postponed or whatever, Sam was just like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I don't know." I was like, everything just is gone.
I don't think it felt real to any of us. Like, I don't think any of us thought it was real. We're just like, wait, hold on. We're like moving everything and canceling everything.
Like, yeah.
A month. Okay. 2 months. Okay. Now 3 months. Like, it just like, I don't know. I think it's weird for us because like, we don't know, we don't know like when, not just like when shows can happen again, but like when tours can actually happen. Because there's a big difference between that. Like venues and everything could get the clear to open tomorrow, but there's not going to be shows. We haven't planned for anything. Like, I think we have a few things that we're hoping may happen in like June or July, but for the most part, like venue calendars are going to be empty. And so it was just like super weird as we're like slowly clearing months of dates on calendars. And we're like, man, if this is for real, not only are we like not going to have anything to do and no revenue coming in, but like by the time we do have some sort of idea of when things are going to go back to normal, like we're not gonna still have anything to do because there's gonna be like that big gap. Like if a restaurant opened tomorrow, they could start serving everyone, have jobs again, but like the music industry and like sports and stuff like that, like it's not just gonna be an instant return.
Yeah, exactly. It's it's like a minimum 2 months after things go back to normal when tours can really happen, if that. Might be even a little longer. But yeah, it was this same thing. We were all kind of in awe and shock, and I didn't really know what to do. And she's a manager of a Hot Topic, so she's been out of work just as long as us pretty much. It was just more of they had a return date, but obviously now that has been postponed indefinitely too. So she kind of had a similar moment, but she was like, "Oh, I'm just going to do a Twitch and stream." And like, I have literally nothing to do. It's not like me. I can do some design stuff here and there, but a lot of that was music industry based too. So that's a little tough as
Yeah.
well. But she's like, I'm gonna do that. I was like, oh, maybe I'll just start a podcast. I've always wanted to do it, so maybe I'll just do it. And it's given me something to be productive about and be creative with, which is cool.
It's kind of
And
weird. I think we're like all realizing how much we put off doing other things during this time. Like I have all
yeah,
these playlists that I've always kind of like half-assed, and just like other things that like I had the time for, but it was just like so draining to
yep,
do an entire day of music industry work and then want to do other stuff as well. So now I'm like, you know what? I'm going to appreciate every moment that I have that I can be doing something. Except
that's
yesterday,
nothing. Yeah.
yesterday I spent about 30 minutes looking up pictures of the old Hot Topics. So Sam would probably be proud of that. I was just,
Yeah, it is wild how different they look comparatively.
it's
It's
so strange.
it's
Like,
night and day, seriously.
I remember Hot Topic did some kind of like low level sponsorship for So What, and I told my mom it was like a full circle thing, and she's like, "Is that the scary place in the mall?" I'm like, "It's not scary anymore. They have like
No.
Doctor Who posters and stuff like that." Like,
Yeah. Seriously, Sam's clientele is middle-aged moms, straight up. And you know, because they have a friends and family thing where they can bring people in to work the big holiday days like Black Friday and Super Saturday and stuff.
yeah,
So I work those, and it's all, you know, mom shopping for their kids or stuff like that. It's the
it's
demographic is insane.
the moms actually like that stuff too, though. I
Yeah, no,
remember
yeah.
one time, one time Dave Shapiro flew into Dallas, and I was like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "Oh, one of my artists is performing." And I was like, "Oh, where?" And he like hesitated for a minute. He's like, "TwiCon." I was like, "What is that?" And he's like, "It's a Twilight convention." And I was like, "Oh, so like a bunch of 12-year-olds?" And he's like, "No, it's all like suburban moms. They're like obsessed with Twilight, and they come together and like do this whole like conference and everything. And it's like the best money the artist gets paid."
That's insane.
They all go to Hot Topic too.
That's amazing. That makes sense. That makes perfect sense. Speaking of Hot Topic and pop culture, are you into anything nerd related like Marvel, Star Wars, any of that stuff?
I mean, like, I really liked Star Wars. I would say I was into a lot more like nerd culture stuff growing up. My dad's
Yeah.
An engineer, like electronic engineer, so he was always watching like Mystery Science Theater 3000 and like
Oh yeah.
quirky like sci-fi movies. So like my sense of humor is a little bit different than most people, and like my taste in movies, where like most people are like, "Oh, this is the worst movie ever." I'm like, I'm gonna call my dad and we're gonna watch it because he's gonna love it. Really cheesy like sci-fi or
Yeah.
like the vampire movies, or like not vampire, zombie movies. Sorry, we were talking about Twilight. I got distracted. Uh, um, yeah, I guess like I'm trying to think of like the nerdiest thing. I don't know. I'm just a total nerd for like old video games. I have like an old Nintendo still. I have a Super
Oh yeah.
Nintendo. I have the N64, but basically only all the Tony Hawk games. I never like I kind of missed the phase of like Pokemon, and I was kind of like in between when I was born of like Pokemon and like these other things. It was like the end of the time where all you did was hang out outside. Like
Yeah, yeah. Because my,
so,
my Pokemon was when I was a kid. It came out like
yeah.
right. I was in like fourth grade or something.
Like my brother is I think 3 years different than me, and he got into like Pokemon and like Power Rangers and like all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. And I was like, I'm outside playing kickball in the street and I don't know, doing random stuff. But we also grew up by the beach, so I was like just always outside. But yeah, I mean, like I still love Star Wars, and like I've more recently gotten into like all the Marvel movies and stuff like that. I haven't seen every single one, but I'd say probably my favorite of anything right now is revisiting Rick and Morty.
Oh yeah. There new episodes coming next month.
There's just so much to digest in every episode, and like most of them I used to just watch when I was like sitting on my couch in California really stoned, and so like I watch them again without being high, and I'm just like, oh man, I have a whole different perspective on this than I did. Like I don't know, it's fun.
Yeah, it's wild. There's this company called New Rock Stars, and they do breakdowns of pretty much anything pop culture you can think of. And they did a series on the, I don't know if they've done past ones, but on the last season, they did a breakdown of every episode and just like the underlying themes of every episode that completely went over my head. I was like, wow, that's really smart.
Yeah, I get lost on Reddit sometimes trying to figure out what I just watched.
Yeah, it's wild. It can be a deep rabbit hole for sure. So I listened to your podcast with Andrew Cram, the Where All My Friends podcast. Definitely check that one out if you're listening to this. His podcast in general, it's very cool. I've been listening to it for a while. And you were talking about kind of what got you into wanting to be in the music industry, talking about how you wanted to get into shows for free and everything. But was there, before that, was there like a show or a certain show or a band that made you think, oh, this is for me, when you were younger?
I mean, the first like club show that wasn't just some big production, I saw the Used, Taking Back Sunday, and Blood Brothers at Trees in Dallas, which is like 750 cap venue.
Yeah.
And it was like super oversold. People were like climbing the tree in the middle, like jumping off. Like it was pure insanity. It was before like the new owner. And so like the old owners just didn't give a shit about anything. And they're like, was somebody yelled a homophobic slur at one of the guys in the Blood Brothers, and he threw down his bass, ran into the crowd, punched the guy in the face, got back up on stage and kept playing. It was probably that moment that I was like, I love music. I want to do this forever. Like that was like the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my life. Like
That's amazing.
I mean, aside from that, like I grew up in Huntington Beach, California, and I was like mainly into like sports and like outdoor stuff. But I was friends with these kids that were in a band, and they took me to see Thrice at a church. And I remember like watching all these kids in like a circle pit, and like being an athletic person at the time, and like loving the like physicalness of like pushing someone or tripping someone in soccer. I was like, man, that looks fun. And so I just like jump into this pit during this band called Dogwood, and it was just like way too much for me. These people were not my age. They were definitely like older, more like punk hardcore people. And I was just like, this is so awesome. I just keep getting punched. And like, it was just such a weird feeling of like loving like the energy from the music. So like those two events combined kind of like set the tone for like this being cooler than going to a party or like caring about any kind of popularity in high school or anything like that. I just like wanted to be at concerts all the time.
Yeah, that was similar for me, except it was just a local show, but it was just kind of the same thing. I just hopped into the pit, and it wasn't even moshing. It was straight push mosh.
The glory days.
Yeah, dude. It was crazy. It was all these weird metal bands, and they were all local, and that's what got me into going to local shows. But yeah, I just remember everyone just pretty much beating the fuck out of each other, and just like, you know, if someone fell down, they'd pick them back up and stuff. And I was like, people are all going wild, but they're all looking out for each other. I was like, this is such a weird thing, but I was like, I love it, because I always listen to well, not always, but at that point I was 16 when I went to that show, but since I was like 12 or 13, I was listening to alternative music, whether it was Fall Out Boy or Silverstein or As Lay Dying or 18 Visions or whatever. But I never even thought that there'd be shows in my town, because my town was tiny. I grew up in Watertown, New York. It's pretty much Canada. It's like 20 minutes from the border of Canada. Super small. The only reason why it has anything is because it's next to Fort Drum. It's a big military base. And I never would have thought like, oh, there's shows there. Because there's so many shows that happened 40 minutes away in Syracuse or an hour away that were all my favorite bands that I listened to, but I had no concept or knowing that they were a thing.
Yeah. I feel like one day someone's going to be on a podcast talking about the shows that we did in Wichita Falls by the Air Force Base and be like, yeah, I was a kid, and like this promoter randomly brought like some big ass band to town, and I was like, I love music now, because we did stuff like in Wichita Falls, and it's like right by the military base, and like we would advertise through the military base. And
oh wow.
I mean, when we stopped doing shows, like those people just started driving to Dallas, and it's insane. It's like so far, like to me, it's so far to go and do that. But it was also like one of those things where like, if you have a show that doesn't go very well, or like you paid a Dallas price, you're like, oh, I'm already losing money. I just want to get out of here. But right. Like you see those kids that like, they have nothing else in their town. Like all it is football and like sitting at home. Like there's no option around it. Go hang out at the One Buffalo Wild Wings or whatever it is that they have. But yeah, that small town feel is crazy.
Yeah, even us, we had a mall, but I wouldn't call it a mall. It was tiny. It had a movie theater there, and it had like a Best Buy and like Zoomies and stuff and Hot Topic, but it is small. If you compare it to any other mall, I wouldn't even call it a mall.
Had your necessities.
Yeah, pretty much. So I know you're offering free marketing for businesses and bands and everything. Do you have any tips or pointers, like what bands should be doing right now, or even promoters should be doing right now to help them not lose momentum without touring? Because obviously touring is such a huge thing, especially with smaller or mid-level bands. You grow, because there's so much stuff on the internet. Obviously people can gain momentum off the internet, but there's so much there now, it makes it a little harder, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think like the biggest thing to keep telling yourself right now is that just because you're bored doesn't mean that you have to be boring. Like these people are going on live streams and they're just boring to watch. They're just sitting there and they're like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" And they're like, there's like 5 different noises in the background. It's like they're losing an audience immediately. Like nobody wants to listen or watch what you're doing. And then you see like I always use Action Bronson as like the perfect example of what to do when you're bored. Like the dude has a cooking show and has become like a full-on celebrity outside of being a rapper. And I
Right.
think that's very important is like everybody has a hobby. Like
Yeah.
if you try to tell me you don't have a hobby, you're lying and you just like don't want to embrace it. Like maybe you're collecting Beanie Babies and you don't want to have a show about that, but that's fine. Like do your thing. But like there's so many people in the music scene that are into like sneaker culture and fashion and like
Yeah.
collecting Funko toys and just like anything. Like you could go and like talk about something interesting, like give people a side of you that they don't usually see. Like going live and answering questions can be a cool thing once, but like just doing it every night, like have some kind of plan.
Yeah.
Just like, I mean, even like go, I'll give you a free one right now. Go make an MTV Cribs for your house. Like you're home, you got to do nothing but stay at home. So show people where you're at, like what you're doing. Like it's, I think it'd be really cool to see like where these bands live, like especially if you're
Right.
like still in your parents' basement. But I mean, just like find a way to be productive because it keeps you sane. Like my positivity and like mental health and whole attitude over the last few days has like skyrocketed just from talking to people. And like you hear yourself talk about something that you're passionate about and you realize that you know a lot more than you probably give yourself credit for. Like when I'm talking to people about Facebook ads and Spotify, and I'm like literally giving them the blueprint. I'm like, here's a website I use, here's a program I use, here's somebody that I contact for this. Like I'm giving them the opportunity to go do everything on their own and they can
Right.
do it. But I mean, that's like another part of like the kind of like being bored and lazy part is that a lot of them will just hire somebody to do it because they'd rather just make the music and not have to learn all these new things. But I think anything you could do right now to really empower yourself as an artist, as somebody in the music industry, as a small business owner, as just a human being in general, is to learn a new skill. Like I went on the New York Post website and like every course that they have is 98% off right now. So I downloaded some courses for like the stock market and then marketing and then like YouTube. And like, I'm not very familiar with YouTube. I'd love to know a lot more about it. Maybe
Right.
it's not something where I'm going to personally hop on YouTube, but maybe one of the artists that I work with is going to be like very, you know, it could be very relevant on YouTube if we do it right. So I'm trying to teach myself those skills. And then in between, I have like little alarms set on my phone to like go outside and like walk around, jump rope, shoot basketball, like do something to just make sure I get out of the house during the day as well.
Yeah, I feel like that's super important, not to just be, even if you're stuck at home, you don't need to be exactly stuck at home. You can go outside, go for a walk. Sam and I went on a bike ride yesterday. We're trying to make that more normal. So it's not just us sitting in a house, you know. Obviously, I've been trying to be productive, and she's been doing yoga at home or short workouts at home. And we have a treadmill and we just moved it, you know. And it's also given us and a ton of people I've seen online a good opportunity to fix up your house or organize that part of your house that's not organized or anything. There's so many other ways to be productive that you didn't think of because you're too busy with everything else going on. Listening to the other podcasts, it's so hard because you said, you know, a lot of us kind of were in shock by the initial brunt of this and almost went into like a little bit of depression or just be like, what the fuck am I doing? And listening to that podcast, it honestly gave me like such a hopeful feeling. Even if it was just in the moment, I was like, wow, this is super cool to hear two dudes positively outlooking this whole situation, even though in retrospect, it does suck. And
Yeah.
parts of it are going to suck no matter what. But hearing people, you know, you can use this to do positive things and it's fine. And that's kind of what I've been trying to tell a lot of people, because, you know, a lot of friends have checked up on me and everything, or me checking up on them. And that's super cool for people to care. And honestly, I'm fine. You know, we have a house, our jobs aren't secure or aren't really here right now, but in retrospect of everything, I'm okay. You
Yeah.
know,
I
and
mean,
I'm
the
trying.
most important thing that I kept trying to repeat on the other podcasts as well is that like everything is being misreported. Like we're not in a recession because
No,
businesses are failing and because the world sucks. Like we've paused our economy to focus on something that's more important.
right.
And once that turns back on, like all those jobs are going to start again. And there's
Yeah.
going to be businesses that go out of business, but there's other businesses like Amazon that's thriving more than ever, in grocery stores and things like that. And like, there's a lot of hope for people if you're willing to see it. And I keep seeing like the message, like, it's okay to not do anything right now. It's okay to be overwhelmed. And like, while that's true, I don't think that's the message that we should be giving people. I think that we should be giving them some sort of hope. And like, it's, you know, like, instead of being like, it's okay to, you know, just lay in bed all day, or like, I've just seen like weird posts on Twitter, like trying to basically encourage people to just kind of drown in the feelings that they have. And I think that instead of that, we should be sharing resources like, hey, go learn a new language for 98% off on newyorkpost.com. Like that, like, encourage people to find a purpose and a place, because the most important thing that's going to happen to anyone that is productive right now is that we're going to come out of this. We're going to have extra skills. We're going to have extra revenue streams, and we're going to already be at an advantage of having that like positive mental attitude when things start back up. And maybe they don't start back up immediately, like especially in the music industry, where it's like, all right, life's getting back to normal. I can go to my favorite restaurant and bar, but I still got to wait 2 months for shows. But at least I've done all of this, and now I'm connected in this way to this new project, or like whatever it is. Like, even for me, like, I started waking up early. I started a Facebook group for people that want to talk about the stock market. I've actually had some really good picks and helped some people make some money. And like, if the stock market corrects itself like it's supposed to, all these people are going to make a lot of money. And like, it gives people something to wake up and talk about, because the stock market opens up, like at my time, it's 8:30 in the morning is when it like goes live, 9:30 on the East Coast. And so I'll wake up at like 7:30. I'll kind of like do a little bit of research, maybe go back to bed until the market actually opens, and then like make my decisions and watch it. And like, instead of having the mentality of like, oh no, the stock market's down today, I'm like, okay, what's up? What can I trade? What can I buy that's super low? Like, by just moving around different assets. And like, it's a cool like skill that I learned from being like a kind of like passive casual investor of like, oh, I believe in Live Nation, I believe in Square. Now I'm like teaching myself how to like actually see the trends and follow like things in the oil industry and the energy, and like just these like financial companies and things that I like never had any clue about. I could tell you what real estate companies to invest in and like all that. It's so weird, but like, I mean, that skill's not going to go away when I get back to my normal job. Like, I'm going to have shows, and I'm going to have all that knowledge that I gained, and I'm going to have a built up arsenal of playlists, and like a list of 500 people that have emailed me, like talking about like, hey, I might need your help with marketing and stuff like that. Like, I think we can all prepare ourselves to just come out of this with like so much more to offer than just like, oh, the world's in shambles. And I don't think that works for everybody. Like, my parents are kind of old, and like, they can't just like gain a new skill and start making money. So they're just enjoying themselves like out at their ranch, and that's fine. Like, you can do that. But I think for people like in our age range, you know, like the millennials, and Gen Z, I believe that's correct. I don't know, but
I think so. Yes.
Like, we should all just like be doing something. Like, we're supposed to be the generations that like understand things better and like give this country hope and like are the future. So we should be doing something about our, that was why Andrew contacted me in the first place, is because he's like, I know that if we talk, you're going to have a positive view about things. And like, I want us to both feed off each other and like talk about the doom and gloom, but like also all the positive that can come out of this.
Yeah. And exactly to your point with people posting, it's okay to be in bed all day. I don't think that's the right outlook either. It's okay to like, hey, I'm going to play video games for a few hours and relax and try to decompress. And that was okay beforehand, even if you're super busy. It's always good to give yourself a break too. You don't want to kill yourself doing whatever you're passionate about. It's always about the balance of everything. To your point, exactly. Like, you learned a completely new skill, and you know, it's so easy to be productive right now. Like, all we have is time, pretty much. You know what I mean? So it's perfect to learn a new skill, you know, find a better routine at home. That's what all I've been seeing, which is super cool, from people that I know that talk about mental health. And it's like, find a routine and try and stick to it, or stick to it mostly. You don't have to be a crazy person and stick to a basic routine every day, because I feel like monotony can come from that. But it's good to, you know, not sleep in all day. If you sleep in once or twice a week, whatever, that's, you know, some people need that rest back. It's fine. You know, not every person is the same. And that comes with any, you know, whether it's working out or a diet or learning or whatever, no one's ever going to be the same in it. So you can't take a structure from someone and move it to someone else. It's everyone's different, but
Yeah, I
it's
put little alarms in my phone, and I've been like kind of sticking to it. It's like 8 o'clock, make sure you're awake. 9 o'clock, be at your desk. Noon, take a lunch break and exercise. 2 o'clock, be back at desk. 6 o'clock, exercise break and make dinner. Like just like reminders to myself. The hardest part has been that like I've been so productive that my brain won't shut off at night. Like at the beginning of
right.
this, I was like, oh, it's 10 o'clock. I'm going to bed early. And now I'm like, man, it's 3 a.m. Why can't I sleep? But I'm still like trying to wake up early and like get that jump on the stock market and like be out of bed and showered and like ready for my day. So um, I haven't been sticking completely to it, but it's been nice. Like I'll be sitting down like at my desk and all of a sudden my phone will go off. I'm like, oh, it's time to go outside and shoot some basketball and then make some food. And like, I like know, like I'm programming myself to take those breaks that I wasn't before. And like, even though I'm stuck in the house and I'm not like going to the gym and I haven't been eating the best food ever, I've been losing
Right.
weight because I've been making sure to stand up, to be active, to drink a gallon of water, like the simplest things that like I was taking for granted of just sitting in an office all day with poor posture.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I haven't set alarms, but I've kind of done the same thing where it's like, oh, it's noon, take a break, see what Sam's doing, talk with her for a bit, ask what she wants for lunch. And like, oh no, I'm on my own. Okay, cool. I'll go make my own thing. Same thing at like 5 or 6, I feed the dogs and then we make dinner and everything. So we've been trying to do the same thing, make it so there's a little bit of a structure. It doesn't need to be permanent, but something to keep it so we're not just in this mundane, like, sense of depression and like, what the fuck do we do? More of like,
Yeah.
hey, we're going to do this during the day rather than doing nothing.
It's been a lot easier on days like today where it's like 90 degrees and sunny outside as opposed to last week when like 4 of the days it was rainy and gloomy. And I was like, man, I don't even want to go outside and shoot basketball or jump rope or anything. And I was like, I can't even like go. I was like running up and down my stairs.
Yeah, that was the tough thing about the first few weeks because it snowed one of the days right in the beginning. We got not a foot of snow, but like 6 inches of snow. And the other days were like 30. So I'm not going outside to anything other than taking my dogs to go to the bathroom. I'm not going to go for a walk in 30-degree weather. I'm good. But it's been nicer. It's been around 50 or 60. So it's not amazing, but I can go outside in a hoodie and pants and I'm comfortable. So it's
Yeah,
been
so
good.
weird. Today's high is like 96 and then tomorrow it's back in the 70s. Like I've never seen it hit the 90s in April in Texas. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, that's wild. I think I think the weather says it's supposed to snow next week. Oh, it's supposed to snow Friday and then the end of next week. But the low is only 30.
I'm sure we'll get some snow or something randomly. I'll be like, it's 96, but next week we're getting snow.
Yeah,
That's how Texas is.
yeah, weather is fucked up. Do you think the pause this whole thing has put on the music industry will be for the better or worse once it comes back?
I think this is a good conversation for an agent and a promoter to have because I feel like from my point of view, I'm optimistic about it because I think that managers, agents, and bands are going to have to be a little bit more understanding of the position that venues and promoters are in. And I think that
Right.
there's going to, I've already seen Live Nation and AEG say it, that they're going to be doing a lot more door deals, but I think that there's going to have to be an understanding to not push for that maximum catering budget and not push for that, like extra $1,000 on a guarantee to compete with another venue. And I also think that there's possibly going to be less promoters, venues, and festivals because of this. So I think that the music industry as a whole, when it relates to our side of the music industry, is going to work together. And I've already seen it with communication between agents and managers as we've been going through this. But I think that there's going to be a lot more working together and just like making sure that, people are okay and that we all ride this out. Because I've been promoting for 16 years and I'm sure that, Dave Shapiro and the people at Sound Talent don't want me to go out of business, and they're gonna be willing to, work with me. And like, especially like, I have Furnace Fest coming up, which I really hope still happens. And I'm really looking forward to, and
I hope it still happens too.
I think that everybody's ready for concerts and music, but it's still like, to add on to like Dan's point, it's still going to be a big test to see who's coming out to shows, if bands are comfortable touring. You see like what happened in China, like people just started going out as soon as they could. And hopefully that happens here. It's a big difference between like that many people breaking the law and just going out, and people going out because they're allowed to go out.
Right.
And I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand when they're like shunning people over in China for going out. It's like they've been in quarantine for like 3-4 months now,
Yeah,
and
since
they're gonna want
December
to
before.
go
Yeah.
out and do stuff, and like they've been told that's okay, and that, you know, if they decide that that's making things worse, that's fine, but we don't know their country, we don't know what's going on, it's not really our place. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that our country just opens back up like that, and that everything's fine. I am a little hesitant to be optimistic about that because of our leadership and the focus that they've had on saving the economy more than, you know, humans.
Yeah.
So they might
Unreal.
try to open it up before people feel comfortable going out. We haven't been on lockdown for 4 months already, so I
Yeah.
don't really know. But I'm very optimistic about it. I think that it's very important for anyone listening and anyone that's a music fan to understand that some of the very terrifying things that you read about how long it might take for concerts and how long it might take for, you know, your favorite artist to come to town, a lot of that has to do with the difference between the arena level shows and the big festivals
Yep.
and like club stuff. I think that they're going to open up the smaller clubs and they're going to get to the
First.
1,000 cap
Yeah.
venues, and then eventually like arena stuff and festivals will kind of roll with when sports are allowed to have big crowds as well. But it's important to understand that bands are going to start touring before everyone is comfortable with it, before everything in the world is open back up, and shows are going to happen, and venues and promoters and bands are going to need your help more than ever, especially if you're one of the people that's been employed, especially if you have the money, disposable income. I realize not everyone's going to, but
Yeah.
I feel like just a general overview of what I've seen online is that a lot of people are out of work, but a lot of people were prepared with some sort of savings or have gotten some sort of help, and they are weathering this fine. Like, I don't know a single person, and that's probably me being very privileged, but I don't know anyone who isn't able to eat right now, who doesn't have a single dollar
Yeah.
in their bank account that, like, and if I did, I would, you know, buy them food or help out however I
Yeah.
could. But I think there's going to be a big need for this, and it's going to be very important at the start to go out and spend money and support as soon as you can, but not be discouraged by the fact that some of the major tours and festivals might not happen this year and get moved to next year.
Yeah, and that's another thing about, you're talking about some people that might not have the money or anything, but I know a lot of people kind of dismiss the news or major media, but there is some information there if you look in the right places. And I know the CARE Act was passed almost 2 weeks ago now, but that gives an opportunity for people who couldn't get unemployment to get unemployment as long as you do it the correct way and go through the correct channels and all that. And it's kind of hard because everyone in the world is trying to file for unemployment, so it's a little bit of a long process, but that's something important that I feel like some people who don't know about need to hear about, and that could help everything, because they're doing that so that people can have money when all this comes out, so people can go out and do things and support businesses and put money back into stuff that isn't getting put in right now. And exactly like you said, there is other programs that are helping. There's the Music Cares program that's helping bands and agents and managers and all that stuff, and there's that new small business loan thing where they'll give you like a cash advance, or if you don't apply for the cash advance, they give you a grant, kind of like the Music Cares thing as well.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see stuff like that that's trying to help as well, rather than just seeing all doom and gloom like we've said before. So there is other options out there, but yeah, like you said, it'll be very important once things start going for people to go out. And I know some people might be scared to go out to, you know, places with big crowds. I know some bands will probably be scared to tour, not knowing what the crowds are going to be like or anything. And it will be very important to support. And one thing I have seen is, you know, when bands their tours got postponed or canceled right in the middle or the beginning of a tour, that people have gone out and supported and bought merch or whatever they could do to help out and, you know, help these bands recoup their losses from money they invested into tours that were coming up, which I think has been very, very cool to see. Or people donating to Frank Finelli's for the Nomads Fund that he just started. That's gone insanely well for all the people behind the scenes and everything like that. It's been very uplifting and cool to see support for things like that too.
Yeah, I think it was very interesting at the beginning of everything. I was like, all right, I'm going to raise some funds for like people that work in the local area, like the stagehands and everybody like that, and like some of the gig musicians that like play around all the venues and don't actually like have merch and stuff like that. And then like got a couple weeks further along, and I was like, man, like I'm going to be one of the people that needs money soon. Like if this
Right.
keeps going. And I mean, thankfully, like I obviously like I have other ways to make money, and like
Right.
I've always saved up and like have, I could drain my stock account if I needed to. I would rather not eat than do that. But I mean, there's options for me, but like it was interesting seeing the progression of that. And I think one of the cool things that's going to happen is like all these people are complaining about how long it's going to take for the money to get here, but they're going to get it right as they're able to actually go out and do stuff. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
things are going to open up. They're going to be like, oh, I have this money that this
Didn't
didn't
think
go
you.
as long as
Yeah.
I thought. And like, I'm hoping that happens. I mean, I keep seeing the numbers go down for once, which is great. Like all the predictions, like I think they just slashed the amount of deaths that they're predicting in the United States by like 25,000, which is incredible.
Yeah.
They
It's a
were
big
originally
number.
saying, it could be as many as 2 million. And then it was like, it'll be at least 100,000. And now it's like down to the 80,000. And like, the only reason that, hospitals are appearing empty and stuff is because everyone's been so well prepared and like actually following directions that for the most part, there's a lot of hospitals that like aren't seeing their capacity. And that's great. I mean, there are places that are like hotbeds like New York City and
Yeah.
LA where it's probably going to get overwhelming still, in New Orleans because they decided to do Mardi Gras. But I feel like Texas would be doomed if South by Southwest happened. And I'm so glad that
Oh
it did.
yeah, that would have been a complete shit show
And there'd probably be a lot of people
afterwards.
stuck here. Like by the time
Yeah.
that was over, like trying to go back to your country. Oof.
Yeah, it would have been very rough for sure. There's so many people that go to that. It would have been very bad if that ended up happening. I know we've talked about, like you said, bigger tours like arenas and maybe even amphitheaters and stuff like that. Probably not happening even this year, most likely. Do you think that club level shows will happen this year?
I think it will. I think it's going to be more dependent on bands wanting to tour than there being restrictions. I mean, I know it's completely unrelated to music, but the PGA tour, after meeting with the president and all his advisors, announced their dates starting as early as August for these major golf tournaments that draw
Right.
tons of people. And I don't think that was something that was done as just okay, we need to post a date. I think it comes
Right.
from a very well-informed place. I thought at first that a lot of these festivals and reschedules of tours were just kind of like us throwing things out there and like hoping it sticks. But I think anything that's being announced now, and like even like Dr. Sanjay Gupta, the guy that's been like all over
Yeah.
CNN and everything, like him saying that he thinks that kids will be back in school on time in August, like those types of things that we're starting to see are big hopes that that'll happen. And I feel like fall is going to be really busy. I think a lot of bands are postponing tours to 2021 more so because of oversaturation than the fact
Yeah.
that they're afraid, which is great because normally like January, February, we're not that busy.
It's
And
dead.
so if things can move to that time period, especially me being in the South, like we're not really one of the high risk places for like ice and
Exactly.
snow and everything. So, I mean, every band can come here in January and February and we'll take care of you.
Perfect. Yeah, even another point that's unrelated to music as well is that huge movies are getting moved to as early as August too. I think
Yeah.
I think Mulan even got moved to the end of July, which is even sooner. Wonder Woman got moved to August. Black Widow got moved to August, and those are huge movies that'll probably make $1 billion or close to $1 billion. And that's another thing too. They're not, Disney is not making a light decision with those things. Obviously, they're a part of the Marvel
I
Cinematic
mean, there's so
Universe
much
and
money that
everything.
you have to
Yeah.
put into the marketing of it that you can't just throw up a date and like hope that
No,
it
yeah,
happens.
yeah. They had a Super Bowl commercial for Black Widow. Like that's not cheap to do.
Yeah.
So exactly, it's another huge company that owns so many different channels and properties and everything. They're not making that decision just off a whim. They're making it like, we're gonna put this date and it's gonna come out this date. And
I think Live Nation, AEG, Disney, like these major companies, I think they've all had enough communication and research, barring like some extreme jump in statistics, to be educated enough about the festival schedule, sports, movies, all that stuff. And I think that the delay in pushing any of it is just so that people stay inside and like make this better. Even if they're seeing improvements, they don't want to give the false perception that everything's back to normal, because as soon as you start seeing all these things advertised, you're like, oh cool, we're good. And it's like, wait, never mind, that's still like 4 months away.
yeah,
but
yeah,
um but definitely it makes things very hopeful. I think everybody panicked initially, and I think that they had to do the right thing, which is delay everything, postpone everything, even stuff in like June and July, and make sure that, unfortunately baseball season hasn't started. The one year that I got like like half season tickets again, and
Oh.
I had Mavs tickets this year, and I think the thing that is very disheartening to me, and like I understand it from the promoter's perspective, but as a human being that wishes he had a little bit extra money in his bank account, like for me to have these tickets to the Mavs for 3 months that I haven't been able to go to, or 2 months, whatever it is, to have the tickets to the new Rangers Stadium, to have Rage Against the Machine tickets, all these things that I no longer can travel to, even like my slam dunk trip to the UK. Like even if things get better, I'm not going to the UK in May. That's not going to be an option.
No.
But they're all like on pause as far as like getting any kind of refund. I can get credit. I can get like more tickets at some point. But like right now where I could use a little bit of extra money, I'm not getting that money back. And I think that's another thing that is going to be very interesting to see what happens, because a lot of people bought tickets to see My Chemical Romance, to see Rage Against the Machine, to, go to sporting events. And that money is all tied up right now. And there's so many promoters and companies that aren't even offering refunds. It's just kind of like, hey, we have to figure this out. Hold on. And like the fans have been very understanding, but if it gets to a point where everything's like given the all clear and they may allow you to get refunds, that's going to be another bunch of money that's in people's accounts. Cause I was originally planning to go to like 8 different cities for Rage Against the Machine. And
wow.
Now I'm just going to probably go to like Minnesota where I have family and I have a pit ticket and see them, and like, that's that. And try to like sell the other ones or whatever. But I think that's another important thing, is like anything that anyone has tied up in hotels, travel, events, like that's all money that I understand shouldn't necessarily be returned immediately, but like is kind of like money that you have that you're not thinking about right now that you could get back. Especially like American Airlines is saying they'll refund things for anything that was like restricted travel. It's just a process.
Yeah, because I'm sure they have a million different inquiries about that,
Yeah,
probably more than a million.
For me alone, I had a flight to New York and back booked, a flight to LA and back, a flight to the UK and back. I have like one other thing booked, and like everything canceled.
Right. Yeah.
Even my friend's wedding that's in June just got canceled, and I'm like, man, you just moved your wedding to my birthday.
Oh man.
But hey, living in Texas and going to Maine for a wedding in the end of August sounds wonderful compared to being here. So I'm excited.
Yeah, Maine is gorgeous, especially in like the late summer, early fall. I've only been a few times, but
I've never been. So
it's
like
beautiful.
One state to check off my list.
Yeah, it's honestly gorgeous. It's breathtaking. It's nice.
I think I have like Maine, Alaska, and like one of the Dakotas that I haven't been to, and I think that's it.
I think there's a good chunk for me in the middle. It was weird when I was touring. I did mostly East Coast, Midwest, and some South. Obviously, I've been to a few cities in Texas, and I've been to LA and stuff, but there's a big chunk in the middle that I've never even touched. I think I've been to more cities in Europe than I have in, like, if I compare, because I did a month-long tour in Europe, so if I like compared that to my touring here, I feel like I went more places, which is
this is gonna be my first time to ever go to the UK, and I was so excited. I was gonna go slam dunk. My friend manages the drummer for Sum 41, so we were like all taken care of, and it's gonna be so much fun. And it's like, yes, this is gonna be the best way to do a first trip. And now I'm like,
yeah. Yeah, that fest is always, every fest in Europe is insane. You see the lineups and you're like, how? Pretty much everyone. Yeah, no, seriously. I know. Yeah, Sam and I were supposed to go to LA in May. She got top 10 managers of Hot Topic, and we were supposed to go. But
I saw that. She was so excited. I was like so proud for her. I was like, that's awesome.
I know. Yeah. And it's crazy because we live, it's not like we live in a big city in upstate New York. It's very small. She has a very small store, and she still just kills it. It's nuts. Because they base it based on like metrics, not money earned, obviously, because that wouldn't be fair for crazy high volume stores, But yeah, I'm hoping they like reschedule it for her or like roll it into next year's or something. I'm sure they'll do something.
Yeah. Hey, top 10. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I know. That's nuts. You know how many Hot Topics there are in the country? And that includes Canada too, because she has two Canada stores in her district that both got in it too. Like her district manager had 3 people in the top 10.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, crazy. I know we talked about routines and learning new skills and trying to be productive. Is there any other tips you have to maybe help people who are kind of lost to keep sane during all this?
Eat good food. Like that's like so imperative. Like there's such a difference between like ordering food all the time and
Yeah.
eating fast food and eating like junk and eating well. And you can eat well, even if it's just like making yourself a smoothie when you wake up or having like some vegetables during the day, just like help your immune system and eat good food. Like it'll change your mentality so much. Like the days that I like have a cheat day, my girlfriend and I started calling Saturday Fatter Day because we like can eat whatever we want. And like that's the worst day for me. Like I'm like dragging. I'm like the food's great. I love eating pizza back to back with Chick-fil-A, but like it's just like it doesn't do anything for me. You know, like I wake up every day now and I make like one of those Vegas smoothies with like I put in my own fresh fruits and some peanut butter and like I get my protein, and then like at lunch I'll try to eat something healthy as well, like maybe air fry some like chicken or something like that, and then cook a HelloFresh at night. And like you could do all of that on a budget. There's so many delivery services right now are giving like free meals and like huge discounts and stuff like that. And like I think just taking care of yourself is the best way to stay sane. Like wake up in the morning, take a shower, eat something good, get dressed as if you're going out into the world, and like just have that attitude. That's the best thing. And like I think from right there you'll just become productive because you'll want to. Like I didn't get all dressed up to do nothing.
Yeah, you have a reason to be productive. Yeah, eating healthy is so important. I don't talk about it a lot publicly because people kind of think it's preachy, but Sam and I are both vegan, and once we changed vegan a few years ago, it changed everything. It made me feel so less lethargic and tired and everything. And that was basically just cutting out animal products, because some of the vegan stuff is still junk, but it's better junk, if that makes sense. Yeah. It's just got, most of it has more protein or less artificial garbage or sugar or whatever. But yeah, eating it can completely change how you feel on a daily basis. It's insane.
Okay, so as a vegan, then I have a question for you.
Okay, shoot.
Might be a controversial answer.
Okay,
so
that's fine.
How do you feel about PETA's approach right now in attacking the Chinese wet markets and their culture to try to make a point about going vegan and vegetarian?
I don't agree with PETA on a lot of stuff, because I do believe that PETA uses some things to kind of just, it's hard. It's a lot of it's like mass media stuff. They do it to push their own agenda, which kind of sucks. And obviously, if you've seen Tiger King, PETA supports Carol Baskin, and I think she's as worse as anyone on that show. I think they're all terrible human beings, every single person on that show. Well, all of the main 3 characters, they all do terrible things to animals. So,
yeah,
and they support her. So like, a lot of PETA stuff, some of it is very good information. But there's a lot better organizations that I feel like actually care rather than them there to push their own feelings. So I don't really support that. I mean, some of the stuff, obviously it's kind of crazy because almost every pandemic has kind of derived from some sort of like animal, not like byproduct, but some sort of ways that they used an animal to create food. A lot of them have, which is a whole nother conversation. But yeah, I don't really agree with it. And I don't agree with anyone who uses something they believe in to push an agenda for promotion, to be honest.
I have like a love-hate relationship with PETA because I love the overall message of like giving people
same, obviously,
information about like protecting animals. Like I'm not vegan or anything, but even just like paying attention to certain things they've posted, like I've improved the quality of meat that I eat and like certain things that I look for. And like they sponsor our events and stuff. And so I like try not to get into it or controversial. But when I saw that, I was like, man, like this is, if anything, if like nothing else, you're going to perpetuate the hatred towards people in China on this. Yeah. And like, that's not the time. You should just be saying eating all meat could cause this, or like not just like pointing the fingers and say this pandemic wouldn't exist. Like we don't even know that for sure. Like I love a good conspiracy, and I definitely think that this came from a lab, and I could talk for hours on all the research and reasoning that I have on that. But like, I think that, you know, it had to be pinned on something. And I think it's very irresponsible for a major company to point at something like that. And I don't know, it was just like, it was probably like the worst thing I've ever seen them tweet, to be honest. Like, it
Yeah,
just set me off.
I don't like anything that will end up perpetuating hate to some sort of,
Yeah.
whether it be a race or a belief or anything like that, when really they're not to blame. You know, it's so hard because you could blame this on everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone not being prepared,
You
everyone
didn't
not
wash your hands.
reacting or whatever, which is kind of crazy because the one thing now, all these grocery stores are deep cleaning everything, and we're all trying to be more cleanly than we probably were and everything. So I think that is a positive in that, where it's like, hey, we probably should have been doing this stuff before. So
Yeah,
it's
like the
kind of good
sneeze
we're doing
guards
it
at
now.
registers and stuff like that, and like
Yeah, and
people
you see
handling
them.
produce with gloves.
Yeah, and you see them like wiping down between each transaction and everything, and it's like we probably should have been doing that before. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Now that you're seeing it, you didn't really think about it consciously before, but you're like, yeah, this probably should have been happening all along. And especially with us, I would try to wash my hands when I go to the bathroom, but now I wash my hands after almost anything. Like if I'm handling food, I'll wash my hands before, but now I'm more conscious to do it pretty much after anything that that I do. You know what I mean?
It's so funny. My ex-girlfriend's mom once asked her if there was something wrong with me because I wash my hands so much, and like I usually can't carry like a hand sanitizer. And I just like wish I could call her and be like, "Who's laughing now?" Like,
Now
you're
we
supposed to be
all.
doing this all along. Like, but like it wasn't even like anything extreme. Like I would pet the dog and then be like, "Oh, I should probably wash my hands before I eat popcorn." Like that's common
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, exactly. So I like to end this with something I call Metalcore Minute. So you have 1 minute, and you can talk about anything you're into right now, whether it's a video game, a show on TV you're watching, movies, music, whatever. So are you ready?
Oh man, the pressure.
Yeah, 1 minute.
Got it. Do I just go?
Wait, and go.
I am really into SimCity right now.
Wow.
I got a Nintendo Switch, and I didn't want to give into Animal Crossing because I didn't want to pay $60 for a game that I'll probably get over in 2 weeks, like I always do with games. But I built this extreme city on SimCity, and I'm really proud of it. And it's taken up a lot of my free time, and another reason that I don't go to bed on time. I'm a great mayor. My approval rating is 99%. I have
Wow.
defeated every monster and national disaster, and it's made me want to run for president because of how good I am at running the world. But yeah, that's about it. I have that, and then I downloaded all the old school games onto my Switch, and I probably don't need a Switch right now.
That's
I don't know if that
amazing.
was a full minute, but
It
I'm the
was
best
close.
mayor on SimCity.
It was close. That was good. Is there anything you want to plug before we wrap this up?
I just finished my nice brand new website that will tell you anything you could want to know about me and link you to every single thing that I'm involved in. You just go to MikeZiemer.com, Ziemer, for those who don't necessarily know how to spell it. Um, but I have my blog on there that I just started. I have my playlists. I have like a summary of the things that I've done in my career, not really a brag sheet, just like, hey, I manage bands, I
Right.
shows, I do a festival, stuff like that. Give a little more information for those metalcore nerds out there that don't already know me. So
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for doing this.
yeah, definitely. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thanks, man. That's it for this one. Thanks for listening. Let me know if you like these more music industry focused episodes. I know I have a ton of music industry friends that I'd love to chat non-nerd stuff with. So if you guys want to hear it, definitely let me know. If you want to support the podcast, follow us on social media at Metalcore Nerds for Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. The most important of all of this, subscribe and rate on Apple Podcasts, follow on Spotify, subscribe on YouTube. Those are the things that are going to help other people discover the podcast. Keep sharing these on social media. I see a lot of my friends sharing my posts, posting on their Instagram stories. Thank you so much for that. And if you want to support monetarily, you can go to redcircle.com/metalcore-nerds/donations. That's it for this one. Until next time. This is Metalcore Nerds.